7 minutes past 8, BBC Radio Humberside Breakfast. James in for Kofi. Now, this morning we're talking about the best way to take on those big companies. You know, you pay your bill for water, electricity or the internet. But what happens if something goes wrong? You don't get what you actually pay for and you need it sorting. Well, it's after people in the Isle of Axholme keep telling us that they're having repeated power cuts. Gary Corkwell lives there and he's been telling our reporter Jessica Lane all about the problems the power cuts have been causing.
Well, we've had them like 5 or 6 or 7 hours at a time, so it's been a bit bad. We couldn't do any cooking or put the kettle on for a Yorkshire cup of tea. So I'm from Yorkshire, don't tell nobody. But it's really like going back into the 70s. And 70s when we used to have power cuts and have your candles out. It's really ridiculous, really, to say it's the 21st century. But they don't actually tell us what's caused it.
Have you ever contacted Northern Power Grid and asked them what's going on?
Jean, my wife has. She gets onto the computer and does all that. And they say to her, it'll be on at 11:15. And we think, oh, that's okay. Then we get another message, it won't be until 5:30. I mean, I don't know. It's like I say, it's like going back in time.
It must have a big impact, though. Like, say, if you can't do your cooking, can't turn the computer on, can't watch the telly.
Well, we couldn't do anything. Really, I mean, like I said, like a cup of tea in the morning, or nothing. And it went off about, would it be 2 o'clock in the morning or something? Because I have to reset the time clocks. And it was like all day. It's amazing. All this technology we're supposed to have, 21st century, like I was saying, gone. Silly, really.
Well, that's Gary Corkwell, his experience of these power cuts. In response, Northern Power Grid have told the BBC that the recent unplanned interruptions were caused due to a fault on their network, which has now been repaired. They say further works will take place in early June and mid-July, removing overgrown trees that have been interfering with the power lines. But many people have told us that they're not happy with the company's response to the problems. So how do you get these big companies to listen in the first place? Let's talk to Scott Dixon, best known as the complainants resolver, and joins me live on the programme this morning. Scott, good morning to you.
Good morning, James.
Do you consider yourself to be a professional complainer?
Yes, I do. I've got many years of experience at complaining, James, and I've won over £450,000 for consumers on complaints. So I know how to get results every time.
I mean, it's often said, isn't it, that as Brits we love to complain, but when it comes to serious things like this experience on the Isle of Axholme, when you do put a complaint in, how successful can you be? Maybe not directly in this case, but cases like these.
Well, the first thing I would say is get it in writing every time, James, because phone calls are where promises get forgotten about. So if you put everything in writing, so for example, if they say something on a call, get the person's name from the start, because if the call goes a bit awry, they may be reluctant to give their name at the end of the call. So first off, who am I speaking to? Make a note of the name, the date, and the time from the start, and just document everything. Put everything in writing. So get an email to confirm what was said, to create that paper trail. And if they won't send you an email, send them an email. So that's what you need to do, is create that paper trail, because that's your most powerful weapon if you have to escalate a complaint. Note the date, the time, who you spoke to, what was discussed, because phone calls, especially with car dealerships, I find amnesia is a common medical condition with sales staff where they often suffer from some sudden memory lapses when it comes to recalling what was said and promised. So that's the first thing you need to do. Second step, I would say, is quote the law, not your emotions. So all complaints are usually linked to the Consumer Rights Act 2015. So whatever you buy must be fit for purpose, as described, satisfactory quality, and last a reasonable length of time. So mention the Consumer Rights Act 2015 within the context of your complaint, and companies respond very differently when you show you know your rights.
You've heard that case study there, Scott, of Gary's experience, and that's like many experiences that people in that part of the Isle of Axholme have told us recently. What do you make of the frustrations that you heard in that case study?
I hear this all the time, James, from utility companies and household names with staff saying, oh, there's nothing we can do. It was just an intermittent fault, and just the usual fob-offs and platitudes. And it's completely unacceptable. Under Section 49 of the Consumer Rights Act 2015, any trader, whether it's a plumber, hairdresser or energy provider, must perform their service with reasonable care and skill, and no one is exempt. And energy firms and distribution networks must be held to the same legal standards as everyone else. And this has been going on for quite some time, and we know who's responsible. It's the distribution network operator. In this case, it's Northern Power Grid. And what the residents need to do is retrospectively go back and create a power cut log. So they've got a WhatsApp group, which will be useful for this, so they can document the date, time and duration of each outage and the impact it's had, which will be direct consequential losses with food spoilage. So if they've got food receipts and any communications with a supplier or distribution network operator, get that paper trail, because they are entitled to compensation.
Is one of the problems with these companies now the greater reliance on technology to handle a problem, the use of AI and systems and algorithms, even, that when you do ring a company, all you ask for is somebody on the end of the line to answer the phone and perhaps listen to you, maybe even just listen to you vent, but when you get through, you have to hit option 1, then it might be option 4, and ultimately at no stage do you deal with a human being, because the systems are meant to be intuitive now, but the reality is that people just want to hear a human voice.
I know, and this is a big problem, and consumers just get passed from pillar to post and having to repeat themselves time and time again. But I'll tell you what I do. I'll look up the key contacts of these organisations on LinkedIn. So, head of complaints, head of customer care, and you can guess their email addresses. And if you can't find that email addresses online, there's a website called Rocket Reach, and you can find contact details through that. So that's what I do to bypass all the red tape and the rigmarole, go straight to the head of departments and escalate a complaint that way.
I'll just finally, I'll let you into the secret. I've had issues with a phone contract in the sense that a phone mast where I live had been removed, and it gave us a very poor service for a while. And in fairness to my phone provider, they were aware of it and gave me a rebate on my phone bill. So yeah, fine. But the biggest issue I've had in recent years is when I bought my house about 6-7 years ago, about 5 years ago, I was getting visits from a debt collection agency for an unpaid toll. And I'll say it, the Severn Bridge, because it was the Severn Bridge, but it was for a previous occupant of the house who was a woman. Now, I didn't deal, because at that point I wasn't living in the house, it was being renovated, but I kept getting this debt collection agency sending increasingly angrier messages to me. And despite the fact that I told them I wasn't called Sally, I was a man and couldn't drive, they still said, but you've got to prove that you didn't cross the Severn Bridge. The Dartford Crossing. And in the end, I said, I got proof of it, but I just said to them, an apology would be nice to this debt collection agency. And to this day, they've never apologised. And I actually think that's just rude.
Oh, it is. It's just outrageous, isn't it? And I would have put the onus on them to prove their case. And with the harassment, I would have quoted the Harassment Act 1997 and said, cease and desist. If you continue harassing me, I will lodge a claim with the Small Claims Court for harassment. And I would have looked up the CEO of the debt collecting agency, and I would have lodged a formal complaint. Now I would have fired back that way. And we need to be more like the French, I say, James. I keep saying we're just taken for a bunch of mugs in this country, and we need to assert our consumer rights and be more militant.
Scott, you're leading the charge this morning. Scott, where were you 5 years ago? Scott, really good to speak to you this morning. Thank you very much for joining me. James. Thank you very much. You can see Scott on social media. Just search for Scott Dixon. He's best known online as the Complaint Resolver. Good to speak to Scott this morning.